the fact that I've never seen you before, and now I'm going to get something electronically from you that is just something on paper. You have a very finite opportunity to wow me on that piece of paper. Introductions. Okay, first person on the list, Aaron Grossclose. Okay, he's our Chief Admissions Officer, also our VP of Facilities and Development. He wears a lot of hats. And right next to him is Nathan Paris, who's our Chief Marketing Officer. Between the three of us, the majority of hiring in this company goes through pretty much all of us. We are the ones that look at resumes. We're the ones that screen resumes. We're the ones that that do the interviews, make the hiring decisions. So why are we qualified to talk to you guys about this today? Because of that. All of us in our previous jobs before coming to Blue Line have done exactly that as well. So it's a good opportunity for us to impart some of that and to explain what it is that you can expect during the process. Why are we here? It's a professional development course, one of several that we're going to be offering over the next several months to give you guys a little value added, and not just for our students, but obviously for our staff as well. And I'm glad to see our staff here because this helps our instructors just as much as it does students. So we're going to talk to you about building a resume, how to build a successful resume that you can be proud of. We're going to talk to you about interviewing and how to be good at that, and how to expect some of the things that might happen during an interview, and even talk a little bit about studying and what that means as part of this. Okay, and definitely one of the things, and this will be what Nathan touches upon, is social media. One of the parts of this that we will expand on. Who in here wants to be an airline pilot when they grow up? Okay. And for the rest of you, you want to be some other kind of pilot, I'm guessing, but just not airlines. Is that correct? Okay. Good. When I started flying, I realized I loved airplanes, but I did not want to be an airline pilot. And somehow I ended up being one anyway, and I had a lot of fun doing a lot of other things that wasn't the airline flying. So everybody's got their own likes, dislikes, and goals, and there's nothing wrong with going one direction or going the other. I will reference, because the majority of people in here want to go fly for the airlines, I will reference the airline career path more than some of the others. However, we can talk about some of the others as we go along. Again, I have experience in the airline business as well as corporate and a lot of different training type things. While I'm going along with this, these guys here will also kind of chime in. I've asked them to add some commentary with their experience and what they've seen. So you'll be hearing from all of us as we go. So, you want to be an airline pilot. What does it take to be an airline pilot? What do you need to have to be an airline pilot? ATP, okay. Good. So you need to have that qualification. What else?
Flight hours.
Okay. How many hours does it take?
1,500 hours.
Okay. So 1,500 hours. So let's just say that we have a room about this size and you go to your interview and there's probably going to be about this many people that are lined up waiting to interview with the airline of your choice. There's a lot of people that are finishing their training, that are finishing their time building, and they have an ATP in 1,500 hours. So you're in a room with this many people. After we talk about the qualifications, what sets you apart? What makes you different? What makes you get the job? They're going to hire 10 pilots and there's 40 people in here. How do you get the job?
I would say soft skills.
Soft skills.
Soft skills.
Okay.
And basically how you interview.
Interview is going to be a big part of it, right? We're going to talk about that in detail. What else?
Your experience.
Okay.
Personal experience. Maybe if you went to college. How was that experience to you? How did that help you grow as a person?
Okay.
So pretty much you tell them how you are able to grow and learn from your mistakes, stuff like that.
Okay. Good. So you're going to be able to steer that to a certain extent. Okay. What do they? Go ahead.
Maybe like your connections and your networking.
That definitely helps. That definitely helps. If you know somebody that actually gave you an in or something at that airline, you probably have a leg up, right? Okay, so if I was interviewing everybody in this room one by one, what am I looking for?
Maybe that we know your company and your values and like how we align with them.
Okay, so like where you came from, your previous job?
Or like if you have like certain core values for your company that we've done the research to lean into like what you guys represent.
Okay.
How we can get the picture.
That's good. What else?
How you think, if you truly care about the job.
Okay. How do I know that? I only talked to you for like 20 minutes. So how do I know who you are?
I would say just by your answers.
Okay.
That you know, answer the question and talk to them, and just they can tell a lot by like the first couple of minutes that they're talking to you, the kind of person that you are.
Okay, I agree with that. All right, what else am I looking for?
That person's enthusiasm in talking about the company and the reason why they're there specifically.
Okay, we're definitely going to get into that. That's a great answer.
Maybe how you present yourself and is the candidate likable?
Ooh, I like that one. So what does that mean?
People want to work with people that they like.
Okay.
If you are able to relate to people and make yourself likable to an interviewer,
I like that.
probably a lot more likely to get hired.
Okay. I think he's on to something. What is that word that we're looking for? What am I looking for? I'm looking for somebody that presents himself very well. Oh, professional. I like that. Okay. So we're looking for a professional. That is what every company is looking for. They're looking for the ultimate professional. How do we know that you're a professional? How do I know in a 30-minute interview that you're a professional? We're going to dig into that. Okay. What is professionalism? It says a multifaceted concept, okay? That means that there's a lot of things involved in this, not just one thing. But it talks about skill, it talks about judgment, it talks about polite behavior. I heard you guys all say these things, right? Personality, the things that make you who you are. To do a job well, trained to do a job well, right? The last thing that it says in there, it says consistent display of ethical conduct. That's not just in the 20 minutes that you're there, or half an hour that you're doing that interview. That's always. That's consistently. That's who you are. Okay.
And Robert, I got something to add. So I think it's easy to take this topic and think that it only applies to a role that you would consider a professional role. But think about it, even something like a grocery bagger. If Publix is looking at a line of people and you've got somebody that is just on it and they come across like this and everybody else is less than that, who are they going to go with? Like this is across the board. Any role, any kind of company. I guarantee people will be looking for this.
Yeah, so it's a mindset. This is kind of the key word for tonight, and we're going to build on this and keep talking about it. Okay, so why? Why do you need to be a professional? Give me some reasons why it's important to be a professional. I'm not talking about during the interview. We'll get to the interview. Why should you always be a professional?
You gotta love just watching and listening.
That's a great answer. Okay. What else?
Helps develop good habits.
That's right. Why?
You're repeating it over and over again.
It's that consistent thing. That's consistent thing we talked about, right? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Because like once they hire you, you're representing the company, so they don't want someone that will act unprofessional or just embarrass the company.
That's right. If they think you're a professional and you go work for them, you're going to make them look good afterwards, right? Okay. Great answers. All great answers. That's exactly, that's just some of them. And there are a million more that I could tell you, but we're going to be limited on time, so we'll continue on. Okay. How do you be a professional? Go ahead.
I mean, look the part for starters, dress to, how you're expected to be dressed to, if not more. Smaller things, always be on time, For any reason you're late, show accountability, say like, hey, I'm running a little bit late, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What else?
Again, the habits can tie in here, make those professional traits an everyday thing, and do your research. Really look into things, talk to people, ask questions, look at people who are professionals in the field and ask them what they do, how they succeed, and what they do day to day to make them successful.
Okay, I love that. For what?
Being prepared.
Being prepared, I love that one too. That's a good one. So all you guys that are sitting here in the front, if any of you guys have an instructor that's sitting along the back, you probably can think of at least one of them or one of them that's not here that you have as your instructor that you can think about that is well prepared, that has done their research, that knows how to answer the questions that you're asking them, that is doing their job to the best of their ability, well-dressed, showing up on time, all those things, right? You probably can think of at least one of our instructors here, if not several. So if that's the case, there's your example. There's just one of your examples, is that you have somebody that is consistently doing what it is that we're asking them to do as Blue Line, but also what you're expecting them to do as somebody that's learning how to fly airplanes. So that is how you do it. There's a lot of different things. The first thing that was said was dress. We're going to talk about that, okay? But all of these things that you can do. When? Wait a minute. That's my next question. When do you do it? Always. Always. We will pound that in tonight as well. Okay. How do you get a job? Let's split this up into two areas. We got the guys in the back that are going to be applying for airlines or already have, and you got those of you up front that are going to be applying for instructor jobs to build time or some other kind of job. It doesn't have to be an instructor job, but something that will help you build the 1,500 hours so that you can apply to that next job for the airlines. Okay? So if I'm your recruiter, I'm the one that's gonna be hiring pilots. How do you get noticed by me first? What's the first thing that you're gonna do to get me to notice you?
Dress well.
I haven't seen you yet.
Resume.
Resume. Okay. So how does that happen? How do I get your resume?
Submit it online.
Yeah. Okay. Usually gonna do an online application. You're probably gonna attach your resume to that. We're gonna talk about the fact that I've never seen you before, and now I'm gonna get something electronically from you that is just something on paper. You have a very finite opportunity to wow me on that piece of paper. Am I right? Because I'm gonna look at 100 of these, and if I see something on there that makes me think, probably not a professional, I'm just gonna throw it away. Okay, I'm being honest, and I've actually done that before, and I'll tell you what things you can do in order to make that happen.
Well, and most companies are going to have somebody with HR who's filtering through resumes before they even make it to somebody like one of us who's in the department or over operations, over the flight line. So somebody who might not even know all the details of the job you're applying for is looking at your resume first. So it can be pretty tricky to get it to a point where it passes someone at that level to be able to get to the person that really matters, if that makes sense.
How long should a resume be?
1 page.
Okay, you know that one. I will tell you that if you hand me a resume that's more than 2 pages, I'm definitely not looking at the whole thing. If you hand me one that's 2 and you got me interested on the first page, I might make it to the second. Or I might lose interest and not look at the rest. Okay? Just being honest, guys.
Yeah, it's important on your resume to stand out. Have you heard the term above the fold? Just take old school newspaper, for example. Fold the newspaper. Where are the headlines? Above the fold. So you want to make sure that your biggest impact, and I'm sure Robert's going to get to this, is above that fold. It's the call to action for that hiring manager. I want to read more. So that's a really important aspect of taking into consideration how long it should be.
Okay, awesome. So what about like half a page? Okay. Why is that too short?
Say, wonders why don't you have more stuff that you've done that's worth me reading?
There's got to be at least a page worth of experience that you have in your life. You know, even
if you don't have jobs per se, listing those hard skills that you have, and we'll get to it on LinkedIn too, but skills that you're endorsed on. It shows that while you might not have experience, you have the capability of performing that job.
Okay, so you then have to decide, and we'll get into this, what goes on there to make it that 1 page. Okay, now I'll ask you this question. For those of you that are young in here, and there's a lot of like youngsters in here, you don't have a lot of experience. And what Nathan just said is perfectly true, that you may not have a lot of work experience, but you probably have some other things that make you interesting, that you can put on a resume that make you look appetizing to a company.
Well, once you see a resume as a story about yourself, and you try to look at it through the lens of another person that's trying to get that story really, really quick, it can change the way that you lay it out, what you want to grab people, and you can start to really get across those highlights, even when you don't necessarily have the experience like we're talking about.
Okay, so you had a job. You think it's relevant enough to put on your resume, and you put it on there. What do I want to know about that job?
Briefly, key roles or key responsibilities.
That's it. I just want to know what those responsibilities were. What was your job? What did you have to do? And what
impact did you make? Quantifiable outside of the airline world, right? On my resume I affected a 30% year-over-year change in same-store sales. So quantifiable things in kind of a bullet point fashion are what really get across.
Format of resume should you use? Does it matter? You know what? I will tell you this. I don't care. I don't care what format you use. I would like it to be something that is neat, that I can easily look at, that's not complicated, where I have to look through a whole bunch of stuff just to get the important things. So you guys are going to be putting together a pilot resume. We're going to talk about the things that have to be on your pilot resume, but there should be certain things that I could easily go to when I need to look and see how every one of you guys stack up against each other. Remember, I'm looking at 40 resumes from this room where all of you have an ATP. All of you have 1,500 hours at some point. Okay? So I want to look at a resume that I can look at and be like, that's nice. Let's look and see what kind of experience this person has. Let's see what kind of education they have. Let's see what some of their abilities and skills are. Okay? It doesn't matter what the format is. It's got to be something that's easily followed. Okay? That's not what's important in this. There are places that can help you. There are websites that you can go to. This came from our VP of HR as part of input for tonight, saying that one of the places that she's actually seen is called Novo Resume. Might be something that would be helpful. They have all different types of formats on there. So you can use that to help you. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. There's nice resumes out there. You might have a really good friend of yours that has a nice resume. Is it copyrighted? No. Change your name and change the experience and you have a really nice resume. So you can do that. Some questions. What should you include in that resume?
Anything that pertains to that job.
That's a great answer. Anything that pertains to that job. Okay? So that you just answered one of my other questions then later on that I have. Okay, so what else?
Name and contact info.
Yeah, your contact info. Let's talk about contact info for a second. Who's got a really silly email address that's not appropriate to put on a resume? Somebody in here has one. No one's going to fess up to it. Okay, there he is. Don't use an email address that's inappropriate. Don't use an email address that seems unprofessional, to use the same word.
I called somebody's number yesterday, and it went to somebody else. The guy picked up the phone like, "This is John," and I was trying to reach Sam. Like, how does somebody even mess up that kind of contact info on the resume? But it happens.
Yeah. So again, we'll get to this later. Okay.
What about that voicemails? You should probably have a professional voicemail too.
Good point. Okay. So make sure that your mailbox isn't full. Okay, in your email or your voicemail. Right. That's not very good. How are they going to leave you a message if they call you? Just the contact information in itself. This is where you start thinking about, I need to be professional. I need to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row so that if somebody does contact me, I don't lose my opportunity at that point. That's a silly place to get chopped at the knees. Trust me when I tell you, I've passed on people because I can't get a hold of them. So, okay, what should you not include?
I call like really old jobs.
Okay, that's a good one. So maybe a really old job if what? I mean, what if you had a job a long time ago and you haven't for a while because you've been in school? Is that job still relevant? It could be. Depends on what kind of job it is. It depends on what you're applying to. So put jobs in there that are relevant to that position that you're applying to. If it doesn't make any sense, if you're a dog groomer and you're looking to be a pilot, that's not really going to look good on your resume. But if you were working at an airport and you were, say, dispatching at a flight school or something like that, that's relevant. So it's got to be something relevant that's important, okay? So how about accuracy? My gosh, I could spend hours on this. You know what I'll throw a resume out for? Typo, a misspelling, grammar. If you can't take a word and make it plural by putting an S on it without using an apostrophe, something's wrong, Then you probably need to get somebody to look at your resume before you put it out.
And you should do that anyway. Whether you feel confident, no, whether you feel confident in what you've done and spell check and all that, have someone look at it. Someone with an outside eye, because they might notice something that you forgot. It might seem right to you, but it might not look right to the recruiter. So it's always a good idea to have someone review it, no matter what.
Absolutely. So don't put something out there without, spell checking it. Have somebody else look at it. And I know this from writing a lot of manuals in my past and stuff, is that you can look at something 10 times and think it looks perfectly good, but because you're the one that looked at it so many times, you went past the fact that you're missing a word in one of the sentences. Okay, relevant. We talked about what's relevant in a resume. Like I said, old jobs, not because they're old, but because maybe they're not relevant anymore. Maybe they're not relevant at all. Maybe it's just something that has nothing to do with the job that you're applying to. Okay? How about up to date? That's a very important one. It's amazing how many people will put resumes out, even to us, that have old information in there. Old information meaning like you didn't update your flight hours. You didn't update your most current job or even your most current training. We have a lot of, if you're a student and you apply to us at Blue Line, please put your relevant experience as Blue Line Aviation. You're here doing your training and actually have spent the last 6 months here with us. Okay, so that is your recent experience. That should be in there. But keep it up to date. We recommend that you make a new resume every time that you update it. You make a new one. So like that, you don't have a bunch of a folder with a bunch of files that say resume on it. You don't know which one's which. Okay, put resume 2024, 2025. And when you update it, you keep putting a new date on there so that you know what the latest one is. And every time that something changes, you get your ATP, you put it in there. You get your seaplane rating, you put it in there. You do something that's different. Gold Seal, CFI, you put it in there.
And before I forget, for my part, use that opportunity as a good time to update LinkedIn. They work hand in hand. And we'll get to that more later, but if you're updating your resume or LinkedIn, you should do the other one at the same time.
And I was going to say one piece, a trick that I've started doing because of how many times I've had to rework my resume or I grab a job that I didn't use on the last one. I've adopted a master file approach where I have every job I've ever done. And I even have multiple descriptions, multiple aspects of the job, so that then when it comes time to write a custom resume, I can start with that, cut out what I don't want to use, refer to something that I've already written, and it makes it a lot easier to cut it down to then what's applicable. Like I wouldn't talk about a security clearance for Blue Line. There's no need for that. So getting down to exactly what is applicable is huge.
All right, so you got to figure out a way to get your best qualities onto this piece of paper. The most important things, you probably want to put them at the top. Now, if you're putting your jobs and you're doing it in chronological order, okay, I understand that. But what about like within those jobs, like the thing that you're most proud of for when you did that job? So, we talked earlier about you want to make sure that you're concise on your job description and your responsibilities in that job. The most important job that you did at that work should go first.
And like, what kind of vocabulary do you use? If you envision like cutting something down, what kind of words? Like, go back to English class. What do you use to describe what you're talking about?
High impact action words.
Yeah, that's one that you want to put into your head. Okay, that's the best way of describing it. High impact action words. What is it that you did, and make the words count. If I was speaking regular English, if I was talking to my kids and I wanted to try to dumb it down for them, I'd probably use a bunch of small words and make it a little bit longer. You don't have that luxury. You got to make it tight. And they want to know that you have some kind of a vocabulary, that you're a professional, that you can speak with bigger words. So you're going to have something that's small that's going to have an impact.
Adjectives, like a really pointed adjective in front of that kind of action word, super, super helpful. Absolutely. And that's where the crafting of it really comes in. And AI is really good at helping with those kinds of combinations.
There you go. Another good tip. Don't reinvent the wheel. AI is there to help you. They can help you rewrite some of that stuff. Also, some input that we got from our VP of HR to use AI to your advantage. Okay? Should you have more than one resume?
Yes.
Why?
Different types of job you're applying for.
Yes. Why? You want to tailor it to that particular job. Okay? If I was applying to be an airline pilot, I think that you have a certain type of resume that they're kind of looking for. We talked about what should be on there, right? We talked about certificates, flight hours, stuff like that. All right? But what if you were applying to be the chief flight instructor at a flight school? You probably want to have a different type of resume, one that highlights something other than your flight hours. Flight hours might be important. It might actually still be on that resume for that particular job, but maybe a little bit further down. What else would you want to highlight above that in this particular example?
Management experience.
Yes, management experience. Management skills. Any certifications, courses, or anything that you took in management that would make you look good. Experience managing people, leading people, mentoring. Even if it's a bunch of kids at a camp. That's leadership management experience, isn't it? That's something that you can put on your resume. So things to put on there, things not to put on there. So you need to have more than one resume because you might want to apply to different types of jobs. So when you do that, you're going to apply to a job, you should make sure that you know about that job first. So what do? Research. Find out about the job, find out about the company, find out what their core values are. I have people come into interviews, and if they know about Blue Line, I already feel like they care, like they really want to be there. Okay. All right, so what kind of extra stuff can you put in there? What's something that you can put in there and stuff that you probably shouldn't put in there? Do they care about what your dog's name is on your resume? Probably not. What about if you were a member of an organization?
Depends on the organization.
Okay, good. Good answer. So if you're from the, you are a member of the National Knitting Committee of America, probably not something that is going to be helpful for an airline pilot job, right? But what if you became a member of, what does NAFI stand for? Anybody know? NAFI?
National Association of Flight Instructors.
Yes, sir. That's it. Okay. So what if you're a member of that organization? That looks really good on a resume, especially if you're going to try applying for a job here. Hint, hint. So what about a job that you were fired from? Do you still put that on there?
If the experience is relevant.
I got a yes and a no. Any tiebreakers?
I guess it depends.
Explain it well.
That's the right answer. If you know how to explain it well. Could you explain it in an interview? So bottom line is, if you got fired from the job, if I asked you about that job, what would your answer be? Yeah, yes, I got let go, but here's what I learned from it. Okay? Something that if it's good experience, you don't want to take it off your resume. But if you need to explain something during an interview, then you could probably be able to explain what your time there was and why you're not there anymore. Okay? So it really depends on what it is. Go ahead.
Does that count even if there was a really good reason you were fired? At that point, you just not put that job on the resume?
I would ask you what it is, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. I think that's going to be, do you guys want to chime in?
Well, yeah, I've got an example. I had a situation of a firing where somebody was standing up for the right thing. Like they were trying to impact the company in a good way, create good change and benefit all involved, but it didn't get seen that way. So the friction eventually had the person ousted. And so I would see that as a great thing to have on the resume, and hopefully it leads to a conversation.
Okay, anybody have anything else on that?
What if you got fired for saying you didn't want to get like a vaccine or something like that? Would you keep that on there?
Depends on what the experience is. Do you think it's a good experience to have on your resume? Because bottom line is, if I look at your job, I may not ask you about that job or even know that you got fired from it, right? You just have dates on there. So if I ask you about that job and you can talk about what you learned by working at that job, that's fantastic. Why did you leave there? I had a difference of opinion in terms of vaccination policy that they had. So, but I learned later on that whatever, X, Y, Z. Just something that you can turn into a positive.
So you want me to talk about the movie thing?
Please.
Okay. So one more thing, I guess, and piggybacking off of that, everything has like a risk-reward balance. And so I think you can carefully think through something and try to figure that out, whether the reward outweighs the risk. So have you watched a movie where you either shut it off or you get to the end and you realize, like, I don't know what was happening, what the point of that was? Can you think of a movie? And how many scenes in that movie were you watching it and you're thinking, like, why did they even keep this in there? Does that resonate with y'all?
Yeah.
So going back to where I mentioned the resume can be an opportunity to tell your story, you can treat it much like a good movie, hopefully, where a movie has such precious, limited time. What they should be doing is, like any good movie, every single scene moves the story forward. And that's what decides whether something stays or gets cut. And so with the resume, same thing. That real estate is so important, and it translates to the time that it's in front of whoever's reviewing it. A good question to be asking is this moving my story forward? Is it going to connect somebody to whatever the picture is that I want them to see? And if it's not, if you can't reason it, get rid of it. Put something more valuable in there.
You speak another language, put it on there, okay? That's something that's very, very good to have on your resume. If you have a specialized skill, that even if it's not specific to that job, but it is a specialized skill that makes you a little bit more valuable as a professional, put it on there. If it doesn't really apply, or you can't think of, or maybe even ask friends or colleagues or whatever, would this apply, to put on my resume? And if they think, no, I don't see how it would help you at all, then take it off. Because the last thing you want is just a bunch of distractions on there. You want stuff that's going to make you look good. And it's going to paint that picture. And by the way, I love that analogy of the movie with the scenes. You want to make sure you include all the right scenes, take out the ones that don't make any sense. All right, so you hooked me. I was able to look at your resume and something on there made me think, I'd like to interview this person. He or she looks really good on paper. Let's see what they look like. So I'm going to give you a bunch of things to think about as part of getting ready for the interview.